And where do they find this cash job? Well, I'll tell you where they don't find it. They don't find it in construction and landscaping because they don't like to do that kind of work. Okay? Indians are funny, man, but Indians don't like hard work and they don't like cold weather, and they have a lot of stuff that they don't like and that they don't want to do, or that maybe they have put into their head they don't have to do. So the point is that they end up getting jobs at gas stations. Oh, the last thing I'll tell you about the student visa that I think is worth knowing is that these same companies that are like staffing agencies in India that hustle up these Indian kids to send them here with the promises of such a great future and an easy job and tech, they have sister companies here in the U.S. So once an Indian graduates, if they can't find a job in the field, they can pay a monthly stipend to extend the amount of time that they have to look for their job in the field. So they can essentially stay here indefinitely, years and years and years, as long as they're willing to keep paying that fee. It is really a form of indentured servitude. So when they need a cash job, where do they go? Well, they tend to move in packs, man. They go together. So when they see the other Indians are getting jobs at certain types of places, that's where they go. They go to gas stations. So when you go to a gas station and you see that it's Muslims or Indians, and that's it, unless you go to one of the corporate ones, or the corporate chains that'll hire all different kinds of people. You ever wonder why you go into a Muslim or Indian gas station in the hood and ain't never no black people working there? Certainly ain't no white people working there, or even a Mexican. Why? Because, man, they're not part of that team. See, those guys started out with the ability to keep what they're doing exclusive because they bought it up and because they're the only ones that done it to pay taxes. Then they get this huge advantage financially because they get to move ahead exponentially faster than other businesses, and then at the same time they get to create a monopoly, essentially a dynasty. But it's not a complete monopoly because there are still a couple other companies out there and a couple other holdout owners who still have it. So they have it. Now, what happened in the 90s in a lot of places, the 90s and probably the early 2000s, I'll tell you something else. Muslims and Indians do not like black people. Okay, anything you might think about white people being racist toward black people, you can amplify that times 5, and that is how Muslims and Indians are toward blacks. And don't get me fucking wrong, it goes the other way too. Okay? It goes the other fucking way too. But Muslims really don't like and don't have a lot of patience for the blacks. So as they bought out cities worth of businesses, they own everything in the ghetto in every major city, right? They started to get sick of it. Well, they sold a lot of them to Indians. Now, this wouldn't necessarily be like the Sikh Muslim Indians. This would be the Hindis. Now, a lot of those places are owned by Hindis instead. See, now, when they wanted to sell, because they decided they didn't like the blacks, and I'm telling you that's the reason. I don't care what they did. That's the reason. When they decided they wanted to sell, they could have sold to anybody. But see, they wanted to keep this monopoly going. Some of them didn't sell, most of them did. But they wanted to keep this going. So they shared it with the Indians. You know why? It's not because they like Indians any particularly more than anybody else. That's not even it. It's because Indians will pay them more money. And that's probably a whole nother conversation to explain why, but just suffice it to say the Indians will pay them at or above their highest possible asking price. That is because the Indians wanted to cash in the same way that the Muslims did, so that's why a lot of them are now owned by Indians. But these places, regardless of whether they're owned by Arab Muslims, Indian Muslims, or Hindi Indians, that's all that they're hiring. And they're paying cash. And from all that I've been able to ascertain on my own, and I can't give you any hard data because hard data doesn't exist. The best I can do is anecdotal, but just believe me when I say that I believe in my fucking heart this is accurate. They pay halfway decent for those jobs, and they're cash. And those are the kind of jobs that many people right now that are struggling would love to have as a second job, and some people even as a primary job. If they could get paid the same way, $10 to $15 an hour take home. A lot of people are having a hard time buying fucking food and buying gas. They would love a job like that, but they won't hire you. They won't hire you. Nope, they will not fucking hire you. At best, they might tell you you can do an odd job around the place in exchange for some grocery items. That's the best you're going to get. You ain't going to get no job. And see, the Muslims in a sense were at the end of this cycle. They had domination in this industry for long enough, and they had made enough money. And it wasn't like it was just one Arab family or one or two Muslim families. This was plenty of their people from different Muslim countries that come here and were able to do this. So they now have what would you call long money in this field, right? So they're at the point where that shit might have started changing had they not decided to maximize their dollar by selling exclusively to Indians. Like, they'll still sell to other Muslims if another Muslim wants to buy a place, or they sell to Indians because Indians are willing to pay more money. So that cycle might have come to an end, and we might have seen a little bit of a change there. But now that the Indians are getting their fingers in it, and they're not getting the same tax breaks as the Muslims were, even though there are still plenty of other ways to offset the taxes by the way they charge and do. Let's tell you, Indians are fucking thieves. I say what you want. Indians are fucking, dude, they are, oh my God, some of the stuff that they come up with, man, they're getting their money. Okay. So this is going to continue on. So if you are not Muslim or Indian, you're not going to get a job there. Now you have to understand when an entire industry, and I said this also extends to cabs and to roadside motels, as odd as that is. But I don't have as much personal experience with those industries, so I don't want to talk about them as much. But just focusing on gas stations and convenience stores, bodegas, etc. It's not, and like I said, it's not just in the city. If you go out into the fucking country, you'll find out Singdeep owns a place out in rural whatever, and you're like, why would this guy even want to come out here, let alone buy a business out here and then have to live out here? But they do. They own all of them. When you think about the amount of impact that you can have to the tax structure, financially, socially, and in relation to business, think about the amount of influence you can have when you control something so completely. And these people don't all know each other, okay? They don't get together and have discussions, but they have what you call an understanding. Gas prices, for example, are based on nothing but demand and ability. Demand from people that want it, and their ability to charge as much as they can get away with charging before somebody actually gets angry and tries to do something about it. That is entirely why and in fact, Joe Biden said something a little while ago about, I went to the gas companies and I told them, you guys got to lower your prices. That's probably true. Biden probably said, hey, listen, I know you guys like to fuck with people and just charge as much as you can get away with, but right now they're coming for us and that's going to fuck everybody up, so you better drop these prices, because that's one thing that even gets my voter base angry. And they did. Tell you something. But gas prices are based entirely on whatever the fuck they want to charge. Every single gas station I have known, every owner, manager of every gas station that I have known, every single one of them, you know how they determine what their price is? They see what the people who are closest to them are charging. That's what they do. So if they don't get together and discuss what they want to charge, they still have an understanding that we don't undercut each other by more than a little bit because we want all that fucking money. Do you see? I don't know if you fully grasp how advantageous that is to have in a business. There are many different industries, and when you charge something, there is a guideline to how you get to that charge. Whether it's auto mechanics and Blue Book, or whether it's construction and fair bit, there are different things that you can charge people. Some companies are more expensive than others, but there are some things that, if you charge $20 for a fucking toaster, okay, and then you come out with a new toaster and you want to charge $30 for it, that's significantly more than the $20 one comparatively, but maybe it's not because it's got some special feature. But if one guy comes out of nowhere and says, I got a toaster, but I want to charge $350 for it, it doesn't have any feature that's any different. You just want to charge more. See, that will never work. People say, why the fuck would I pay that? Just because you want me to. That's crazy. Therefore, shit doesn't work that way. You know? But with gas stations, man, they can do exactly that as long as they work together. But they don't have to have meetings to do it. They just have an understanding. So imagine the amount of cultural, financial, etc. influence you can have when you essentially dominate an industry and you have a lot of can do whatever you want going along with it, including being able to pay people who are not citizens of this country, who don't respect, observe, or give a shit about any American holidays, who don't know or care about getting things like overtime, who don't know and care about getting things like insurance, who don't fully understand how if something happens to you at work, you can be litigious and sue, discrimination included, but also for you get hurt, etc. Imagine what it's like to have a whole workforce like that and have all this influence. What kind of different things could you do with that kind of money and power and control? A good amount. This kind of thing is happening to every industry in this country. One special group or another is gaining or maintaining control of it. Construction, landscaping, those would be great examples. If I had more personal knowledge, I could probably rant about it for a while. But what I've just told you about Indians and Muslims, I know this like fact, like the sky is blue. I guarantee you, I could walk into you. You said, hey, come with me and let's go into a fucking random gas station in Cleveland. I could break it down. I could tell you who owns it. I could point out stuff about, I could tell you anything about anyone anywhere in the country. I'm certain of it. I can do the same thing with landscaping, for example. I might be able to make some good guesses, but essentially it'd just be a rant. But I'm telling you, this is happening to other industries. This is how they are going to create, it creates like a dual type of slave class. There's the other people who can never break into industry, and it'll be more and more and more that are like this because you have to be a certain type of person to get in there. And then there are the ones that work there that will be, they'll be upper management and they'll be exploited. It's like an eliminating middle class thing, I guess. I don't know. I think it's a lot more nefarious than that. But this shit is happening everywhere. And I'd like to say that, unless we do this or that, but there really ain't much to do because these groups are already in there and they already have all the power. I like to say there's a way to correct this, but there really isn't any way to correct this. Not at this point. This pretty soon everything's going to be a multi-million-dollar, multi-mega corporation, like a Walmart, right? They got groceries. They got stuff for your car, stuff for your house. Like stores like this are taking over. They're destroying everybody else's ability to own anything. They're destroying anybody else's ability to really, you just, if you have a good idea and you find something that sells, one of these mega stores of whether it's whatever kind of store it is, they will just start to sell the same thing that you're doing. Hell, even if you have a good enough service, a lot of these places are starting to pick up services also. Amazon will own everything. Walmart will own everything. These places will own and control and offer everything. And the rest of us will be left to work with whatever we can get. Just like they're doing with the real estate and the housing market, which is a separate topic I won't get into. But ownership is going away. You should be furious just hearing somebody even use the phrase ownership is going away. Just go away. Who the fuck are you? I can still... But you can't really. Not much longer. Not much longer. Something needs to be done about this. And the answer does not lie in a fucking clown like Biden or even in Trump. The person who's going to fix this problem has not yet announced their candidacy. But I can tell you for sure There's nobody in the political arena, from president on down to state representative, that has really got your back. We're fucked.